Hello, hello. Welcome to the Mother Days. I'm Teresa Palmer.
And I'm Sarah Wright Olsen. Hi,
Whoop, whoop.
Daisies.
Hi, Daisies. You.
We're really doing it, guys. We are coming at you from all different time zones and parts of the world and different parts of the day.
Hello from Melbourne, Australia, which you Americans, it's not Melbourne. It's not.
You're in Melbourne?
It's Melbourne. Even though it's spelled
there's
born,
no R?
It's Bourne. So Americans are like Melbourne. I was like, that's not how it's pronounced. It's Melbourne. I know. But you find the Americans who are really like proud of it. And they're like, Melbourne.
Oh,
I'm like, Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then it's not Brisbane either. It's Brisbane. Anyway, that's a little bit of a lesson.
I knew that one.
You knew that one?
Come
well
on.
done.
I knew that one. I knew Brisbane.
There we go. They just won. They just won the AFL grand final.
They did?
The Brisbane Lions. Yes, they did. I watched the game. It was a flogging. That's what I meant to say. A flogging. Which doesn't happen in the grand final usually.
Winters has some things like yours said slogging or a fogging, but when it's foggy out, Winter always tells me it's soggy out. She's like,
soggy.
That's so soggy
cute.
out here.
That is so cute. How are you, Sarah Wright Olsen?
I am so good. It is crazy busy right now with the kiddos. Today alone, took the kids, went to do a work thing, went to come back, did some laundry, picked up the house, went back to get Winter, got Winter, then went to get Wyatt for his football game, went to his football game, and then went to get Esme.
Oh my God.
Eric's in his last week of production for the show. So
how exciting about the show, the numbers, the reviews, everything.
Yes.
Guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, it's Matlock.
Who has seen it? I'm not giving anything away. But can you guys even handle the ending of that episode? I cannot
so
with Kathy
crazy.
Bates.
She's
amazing. She's
next
amazing.
level. She's sassy cool and sexy and just
oh my
awesome.
God. And Jason Ritter, he is so charming.
We're obsessed with him. I think he's the kindest guy in Hollywood.
Charming, cute, funny. Oh, he's so great.
Just charismatic. All the things. I love his wife as well.
And the girl Sky Marshall in it. She's unbelievable.
Oh,
you
my
just
goodness.
nobody talks faster and more efficiently, and she's just so on it. It's just amazing.
And so guys, just so you know, this is the show that Eric produced. He set up the show, right? And and he's the producer, one of the producers on the show. So we're very excited for him. We're celebrating Eric.
So
That's such an amazing win. He worked so hard.
For years. He started working on it in 2021, you guys. It's 2024. So it's pretty a long journey. But no, it's so exciting. This is the last week. And it also happens to be October spooky season. So we're definitely going to have some spooky convo today.
Yeah.
We want to talk about all the crazy activity that's been going on at Teresa's house and at my house, which is so weird. Okay, so the week leading up to my birthday.
Happy 41st.
Thank you, guys. I'm 41, y'all. I'm 41, but I'm very happy about it. Feels so good. The week leading up to my birthday, it was just really busy because the kids, in school, Eric's production, all the things. But I was feeling very nostalgic, very cuddly with Winter and very much it had just been her birthday. So she was 4 and I'm holding on to her every night. And there was a couple nights in a row where I was cuddling with her and she's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And so, and I'm laying there and I'm thinking about all the things, things I'm grateful for, my dad and thinking about my mom and my brother and just my family, everybody. And Winter's I gotta go to the bathroom. And so I'm okay. And I get up with her to go to the bathroom and she's on the potty for a few minutes and I'm just kind of standing there, tired. It's you don't want to be awake at 10:30 with your kid, right? But I'm just standing there. And I'm are you going to be any longer? Should I go ahead and help you out? And she's just a few more minutes. And I'm oh, okay. And so then I'm looking out the window. All of a sudden the lights in my bedroom just all come on. And I was okay, that's really weird. I look out there and like Esme's asleep in my bed and the lights are all on. The dog's asleep. He's not moving. And I'm like, that's so strange. And so then I start to walk to go turn them off and they go off. And I was like, oh, that's so weird.
Because ghosts work with electrical things all the time.
No,
like that's kind of their way of giving messages is through like lights.
And I have sconces on the wall, but I also have an overhead light. So it was like everything came on and then everything went off. And I was like, God, it's so strange.
You're like, Dad?
I know, I was. So then like a night or two later, I'm laying with Winter again and we're talking about like our birthday wishes and things that we're wishing for. And she was like, you know, asking me what I was wishing for. And I was like telling her about things that I was thinking about, you know, and like, baby, whatever. And so... And we're just like, we got so cuddled in and then all of a sudden the sconces like turned on in my room again. Like, yes. And then they like flickered and I was like, Dad?
Oh my God. You're like, okay. Are you telling me
to, like,
baby's coming? No. What's happening?
I went to like turn them off. So I like reached back to turn them off and I tried to turn it off. And it like took a second, went off, and then I couldn't get them to turn back on again.
No.
Yes. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of freaking me out a little bit now. Like I'm feeling like kind of weird about it, but I'm just going to remind myself like spirits, ghosts, like everything's fine. It all feels like good energy. Don't get scared. Don't be that little girl who was like hiding underneath her covers. And so then I was just like, okay, I'm just going to sit here for another minute. And I was like, do you want to tell me anything else? Nothing happened.
Yeah, what else?
Anything else? Like I was trying to do like the Laura Lynn Jackson where I was like asking a question and then like nothing happened. And so finally I was just like, okay. So finally I was just like, okay, I'm just going to like go to sleep. And then they came on again. And I was like,
oh my God.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God. And then I reached to go like turn it off because of course the girls are asleep. So I'm like, don't really want it to wake them up.
Yeah.
But I also very much enjoying this like play that's happening. I go to turn them off again and I tried to like turn it down. It went off and then I couldn't get the lights to turn back on again. I tried turning them on, tried adjusting them, tried everything, nothing. It was just like done. And now my lights are fine. They're normal. So just like those couple of days leading up to my birthday, there was just all this weird.
Yeah, I bet you that was your dad.
Activity. I know. I think so too. I feel like I had like a visit or something, you know, and like I kept trying to stop myself from reverting to that like scared little kid who was like, oh, this feels weird, you know, but I also was just like, no, I'm going to embrace it. And
that is so exciting. I love that shit.
I know. I love it too. Okay, so tell us some of yours because you've had some weird stuff.
I've had some weird stuff. So right now there's so many weird things going on, including we were editing the Angie Bannicky episode, which will have come out by the time this is out. It's just about to drop. And she said something sort of quite interesting in her tarot that I was like, oh, I wonder what that's about. Almost the exact thing that she said kind of happened about 4 or 5 days later.
Wow.
And that in and of itself was that already like sent chills down my spine.
Yeah.
And then I flew to Australia on my own with the 4 children and we had just this wild time. So we left the Toronto Film Festival. We had all this luggage. We packed everything up. I got to Vancouver and I think I told this story about how I was like, I'll just do all the things you can possibly do in Vancouver, like just me on my own.
Bikes and
oh my God.
All this stuff.
And I got into this crazy situation while I was there. This is just backstory for the ghost stuff because it was just, this is what was leading into it. I just needed to explain the chaos of my life. So we're walking around, we're in Vancouver. We've like the day before we did a 10K bike ride with the kids and just me on my own. And then we have like all these adventures. We go to sleep. We've set up this tiny little sort of crappy hotel room, but it's got a little kitchenette. So I'm like making baked beans and very basic things for the kids. And then the next day I was like, oh, I found, everyone knows I'm obsessed with avocado toast. So I found like the best avocado toast in Vancouver, this really cool restaurant. So we decide, I was like, oh, fuck it. We'll just walk there. It's like a 30-minute walk, but we can do it. So we walk there kind of leisurely. The kids are off. The girls are obsessed with doing splits at the moment. So like every 5 meters, they both get out and do the splits on the ground. And the boys are like, great. And then we'd stop again and there'd be more splits. So along the way, they were just like on sidewalks, like just like dirty footpaths. They're like, and now I'm going to do the splits again. Anyway, so we eventually get there. I'm exhausted. I'm kind of grouchy. I haven't really slept that well. And then we get to this cafe. And as we're walking up, I'm like, oh, there's some kind of shady people out the front of this cafe, like a group of shady folks, just sort of seem a bit aggro. And I was like, oh, okay, like shepherded the kids in quickly. And I was like, oh God, what area are we in? And I was like, anyway. So we had this amazing avocado toast. It was so good. And then I looked at the map and I'm like, oh my God, the science center is only a 15-minute walk away. Like, cool. That's where I wanted to go that day. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to walk there. And so because those people were out the front, I just said to the waiter, like, hey, what do you think about me walking from here to this place? And she was like, fully starts laughing, gets her co-worker over and was like, oh my God, this sweet mum with her 4 children, like a lone woman with her 4 children, suggested walking to the science center. And I was like, why? What's wrong? And they were like, you can do that if you want, but it's really not the best area in town. I was like, are you sure? Like, it's only 15 minutes. And they're like, yeah, nah, this is not something you want to do.
So like the red light district or something?
Well, I was like, what even is this? So I do the Uber. And I was like, okay, I'll book an Uber. That's fine. Like, obviously I trust them and I listen to them. I don't want to put anyone in danger of my kids, especially I'm on my own.
And they stop to do the splits. It's not like you're walking fast.
I know. They're just doing splits all the time.
Like, oh, she's a great target to rob her.
So I book the Uber, but then it's like the Uber needs you to move to this certain point to be picked up. And I was like, oh, okay. So I've got to like walk.
The Uber doesn't even want to drive there?
The Uber's going to pick me up 100 meters down the road. And I was like, okay. So I get the kids and we have to walk past this group of people. And so I've got like 4 children. So I'm holding, in one hand, I've got 2 hands and I've got another hand and then my elbow is pushing the pram with Prairie in it. And I'm just kind of like, everyone stay close. So I'm walking. We walk to the edge where we were supposed to get picked up. Some of these people were really aggressive, like loud and getting in fights with each other. There was this person, they were coming up to me and the kids and like talking really loudly. And the kids, of course, and I was like, it's okay. We're safe. It's okay. And I was like, oh my God, what have I got us into? I'm waiting for the Uber. I'm like, hurry up. And then we get into the Uber and the Uber driver's like, why are you here? Why have you been like, what are you doing
like,
here?
I was eating. Such a dangerous
I was like, it said Vancouver's #1 avocado toast. Like, I don't know. And he was like, you have come into the dodgiest area. Like people can attack you. It's very violent here. Even the police don't go here. And I was like, what? We get in the car and he drives and I just see more and more. Like I'm talking about 1,000 people. Like,
oh my God.
The biggest, like this whole area just filled with these people. And of course my heart goes out to them. Like my husband was homeless. He lived on the streets. And I was just like, okay, I wish there was an app that tells you, or like on Google Maps, it's like, this is a high crime area or like steer clear from this area. And it got me thinking, like, as a traveler, you don't know. You just get a Google map and you're like, oh, I'm just going to follow the map. I was thank God I asked because I was so close to just walking my kids up to this science center. And they're really sort of sensitive about that kind of thing anyway. They get nervous. They're a little bit afraid. And so I was like, oh my God, what? This could have been the biggest mum fail that's ever happened. If I was like, no, we're fine. Come on, guys, let's just walk. We can do it.
Except for it wouldn't have been your fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how would you have known?
How do you know? And I was like, there needs to be more awareness of like, these are the areas in the city that you don't go to, and you don't, as like a single woman with 4 little children, like, don't stumble across these areas. Anyway, so we get there, we have this amazing like time at the science center, and we're all kind of laughing a bit about like, wow, that was nearly almost the biggest mum fail I've ever done. And then that night, I'm having weird dreams. Like, I'm having kind of spooky, nightmarish, kind of ghoul-like dreams. And I was like, I wonder if it was because I was a bit unsettled during the day. And I sort of just chalked it up to that. Like, I woke up in a sweat, like right in the middle of the night, and I woke up like, yelling or whatever I was doing in my dream. And that just got me feeling a little bit spooky and just like a little bit like, oh God, like that just is such a weird feeling. And all right, I know we've got a big travel day tomorrow. Like, I'll just brush it off, whatever. And we get to the airport, and it's actually quite smooth. The check-in process is really smooth. We try out these new Sky couches on Air New Zealand, which were great, by the way. It's like you buy an economy ticket and then you just pay a little bit extra. And they come and put these footrests in, which turn your economy seat into a bed for you to just sleep across like 3 economy seats. It's really amazing. It's not that much extra. So we tried that out, and I was like, oh my God, I'm definitely traveling like this forever. So we get to Adelaide, and it's straight into pandemonium. So we have decided to sell the house. It's 2 bedrooms. Beautiful home, 10 acres of land, 2 bedrooms, but we're not there enough to upkeep 10 acres of land. And that land needs people to be there all the time and enjoy its beauty and walk around and like be on the little ride-on lawnmower. And it's just such a magical place. I was like, I really think that this home deserves full-time occupants and kids running around. And anyway, it's what we love about it, but we're there in such small snippets that we just made the decision that we were going to sell. So that in and of itself, I think obviously the energy in the property probably doesn't like the change. And I think the haunting or the ghostly activity is actually attached to us, because the people who I think might be presenting themselves are members of my family. And so I come in with all the suitcases, and I find out, and my husband's back in America, I find out that they want to stage the whole house, which means all my furniture has got to go. I've got to pack up the whole house now. Usually you get to pack up after you've done a sale. But in this situation, they want everything gone and out of there. So it's a shell of a house, and they can come in and fill it with their own furniture. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, great. Well, that's fantastic, because I'm only here for about 10 days and I'm here on my own with 4 children and my mum, and my husband's away. But cool, I'll pack up the entire house that I've lived in since I was 5. Cool.
I mean, that is that's such a huge job. It's a nightmare.
Oh my God, Sarah. And also trying to get the kids to school for their last 2 weeks ever at this school that they've been at. And I cannot tell you guys, my life is usually hectic. What I have navigated in the last 3 weeks, or even 4 weeks, including the travel on my own, is so exhausting. But I've been running on adrenaline that I feel really energetically flat now. Oh, I've been just running on adrenaline. Anyway, so every single day I've been like boxing up stuff. I've had Susie's come over to help me. And then, you know, her sister Kate came over to help me. And then my friend Chantel and Al and their husbands, people were showing up, like just being such legends, like carrying furniture with me up to sheds where we're storing furniture at the moment. And it has just been like such a big effort. And the first night that we got back and I started packing up, I would listen to true crime in my headphones and just pack. And that first night, the house is upside down. There's mess everywhere. I'm lying in bed with Poet because it's only 2 bedrooms. One bedroom is for my mum and all the children. And then the other bedroom is me, usually me, Mark and Prairie. But because Mark's not in town, me and Prairie have been sleeping in there. And sometimes I'll have another additional child in the bed when Mark's not with us. So my car is parked up right to the bedroom window, and it's got these like big triangular windows, and my Mercedes is like right parked there. And I have not tried to turn my car on yet since I've been there because it just was straight into packing. So then she's falling asleep and suddenly, boom, the light just lights up the room. And obviously it's like I've got all the lights off. I'm trying to get everyone to sleep. Light just floods the room and I'm like, what the fuck? And I thought like, oh, maybe it's the sensor light outside that one of the cats or dogs like set off. No. I look out the window and my car, my Mercedes, one headlight is on.
No.
Just one. And there's no keys in the car. The keys are in a drawer. Just one headlight.
Okay. What the what?
You can't even turn one headlight on. How do you even turn one headlight on? And I was like,
that's insane.
It's insane. And I was like, oh my fucking God. And I said it out loud. And Paul was like,
I would have been so scared.
And I was like, nothing. And then I go to get my phone to film it and boom, it turns off again. And I was like, okay, was that just a weird glitch in the system? Like, cool. I'm just going to pretend in my mind that that's what that was. So I go back to sleep with her lying down and have the meditation on and everything. And she just starts falling asleep. I'm like, yay. Boom, light comes on again. And I'm like, and I crawl up and I'm like, what? And it's the other headlight. So the other headlight's like, doo, the right. So the first one was the left and then it was the right. Boom. And I was like, what the fuck? And so then I was like, okay, once she's like in her REM sleep and I know she's fully out, I'm going to go get my keys and I'm going to go see like, did a light it's been sitting there for 3 months. I haven't even been in LA. So this car's just been sitting there. And I was like, okay, that's just fucking weird. So.
Oh my God.
Lie there, the light goes off, boom, both headlights on. And I was like, okay, this is starting to freak me out.
This is really scary. Like this is the part in the movie where like the weird guy with the mask is like sitting in the car in the driver's seat
like,
and you're just like,
I know.
And you're like, oh my God.
I'm like, it is pitch black as the night there. And you're on 10 acres of land, pitch fucking black. No. And I'm like, I am the only, because my mum's like got her sleep apnea machine on, sleeping, you know, I can hear her. She's fast asleep. Like everyone's asleep. I'm like, okay. So I go and grab my car keys. And I
can't believe that. You go outside?
I go outside.
Yes.
Because I'm just like, I'm going to figure out what's going on. Has there been a light? Has the light been turned on for 3 months and it's just like dead or something? So I go.
No, because it wouldn't come on.
I know, Sarah. So I go on and I put the Mercedes key in and I go to turn it on and it does not turn on. The car does not turn on.
Oh my God. Oh
but this
my God.
little sign comes on, which is like, change gear before taking to the workshop. And I was like, okay, so obviously something's up with my car. Like, I don't know what's going on. So I take the key out I go back inside and the same thing happens.
Okay, wait. Stop. Before you keep going, here's what I need to know. When you're in the car, are you thinking someone's behind me with a knife? And then
no, I always check.
Or are you like, but then are you like, someone's going to be outside the car when I get out and they're going to like grab my ankles or something? And then like the walk from the car to the house, like, were you like bolt and like freaked out walking from the car to the house? That's what I want to know.
Well, because I park right up against the house. So the car is like a meter away from like the kids' bedroom. Okay. I park right up against, so it's not that far. So I go back inside, the same thing happens. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna take this, actually. I'm not gonna take this. And I have before said to my family member, when Prairie was a newborn and it was the knock on the door in the middle of the night. Do you remember this? Knock on the door.
No,
in the middle of the night.
No, thank you.
When she was 4 days old and I opened the door and the trike was there, which had been put away. After that happened, I had said out loud, like, no thanks. Like, I don't want anything at nighttime. I don't want anything. I don't want any communication. I don't want anything. Nope. Like, if you have something to say to me, you can come into my dreams and communicate with me that way. You are not going to scare me at nighttime. I'm not okay with it. And after that, it didn't happen. So I haven't had any other activity after that time. And then this starts happening. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to announce to anyone who's out there. I was like, hi, hey, so I'm here on my own, as you know. And yes, we are moving house and that's the way it is. And I cannot be spooked at the moment. Like, this is the last thing I need. Like, can you please chill out? Like, just stop. I don't need it. Just in case it was like a spooky wookie, right?
Yeah.
So then I go to bed and I leave my salt lamp on because I'm like, I don't really want it to be totally pitch black at the moment.
100%.
So I'm going to sleep with my salt lamp on and I just have my music on. I put my eye mask on and put my earplugs in and I'm like, all right, I just got to go to sleep. The dog wakes me up in the middle of the night barking. But I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to go to bed. And then the next day I call the RAA, which is our car company that comes and like they come and service the car. So I'm a member of the RAA and I call them and I was like, hey, there's something wrong with the car. I obviously have to get my kids to school. Like, could you please help? He starts charging the battery because I explained, look, I haven't been here for 3 months. No one did drive the car in those 3 months, but usually the car works fine even when I've been away for 6 months, the car still works fine without being turned on. So I don't know what's up with that. So he starts charging it, the battery, and is like, I don't know. Like, I can't tell what's wrong with it. I have no idea. Like, it's not the battery. I've fully drained my own battery. I thought it could be that. I think there's something wrong with the transmission. It's not picking up on what gear it's in. Usually it should say that it's in P for park.
Yeah, park. Yeah.
But it's not saying it's in any gear right now. So I don't know what's wrong with it. And I was like, look, I just had it serviced before I left. Like, we spent a lot of money on getting that car serviced. It also, when my husband hit the kangaroo last year, it went.
Just a little dropping that little thing in here.
You know, when he hit that kangaroo that jumped away all happily, probably not that happily.
Totally fine.
Yeah, totally fine. It was just like doing, but the whole car, the front of the car was smashed in. We went to our insurance and like the insurance got it all fixed.
Yeah.
Plus then it had a service. So I'm like, well, this is not my problem. Like, obviously this is Mercedes. I'm blaming Mercedes now. Like,
your fault, not mine.
You guys service the car. Like, what's happened?
Yeah.
So then the RAA was like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. Like, you can organize to get it towed to Mercedes. And I was like, great. When it rains, it pours. Fantastic. I definitely need this on top of everything else that I'm doing on my own at the moment. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I have to organize to get a tow. It gets towed to Mercedes and I keep trying to call them to find out about the car and no one's answering me. all week I try calling, being like, what's up with the car? I finally...
And
no one? No, nothing. There's no notes in the system. I'm so sorry. Like, no, we don't know. Anyway, so I finally get a text message from the Mercedes-Benz guy saying, hey, we really have uncovered some issues, but we don't exactly know what it is. We've never seen anything like this before.
Oh my God.
There's definitely something with the transmission. It's acting really weird. And I was like, So
Great.
I call him the next day and I'm like, tell me, is it like ghostly activity? What's going on? And he's like, well, it's acting really weird. Like lights are coming on and off. They are. And I was like, oh, cool. Fantastic. It's like the radio is flicking through all these different stations.
Stop it.
Here in the workshop, like boom, 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 boom. And he's like, and then, it's just acting really weird and like it's got a mind of its own. And I was like, it's because my dead relatives have gone into the Mercedes-Benz car because they're like, they are not leaving us. We will just come in the car wherever you go. I was like, oh, cool. I literally said to him,
oh my God.
I literally said to the guy, I was like, yeah, it's ghosts. And he just started laughing.
You're like, I'm moving and they've decided that they're just going to come wherever it is that we're going.
Moved out of the house into my Mercedes car because they're like, we're following them. Like, we're not.
And the car's like, we can't handle what all this activity. Like, what's happening?
The whole car's just like exploded.
Oh my God, Tez.
It's so funny. But the guy laughed and he was like, well, that's as good as an explanation that we can come up with. Like, we don't know. The car is still there and they still don't know what's wrong with it.
You're
had
joking.
to rent. First of all, I had to drive my mum's tiny little car around with 4 kids with car seats. Like the kids didn't even fit in that car. I had to drive that around for a few days. I finally get a rental car that I drove to Melbourne in because I was meant to drive in my Mercedes.
God.
So I get this car and I'm expecting at some point to get a phone call from them saying that the car, it's been in there now for weeks. There's still no solution.
Send a message to your relatives and tell them, like, guys,
get out of my
you
damn
guys
car.
should probably get out of the car.
I was like, you need to get out of the damn car. I was like, oh my freaking God. So anyway, I've added this to the list of things that I'm now making Mark deal with. I was like, when you get to Australia, you are going to Adelaide. You are going to do an exorcism of our Mercedes-Benz car. You are going to bring it back to me ghost free. I don't want any ghosts. I don't want any flashing headlights or flicking through the radio stations. I just want a normal car. Oh my God. Anyway.
Why is it so scary? It is. It taps into, I think it's because it taps into like all the, like scary movies and stuff from when we were kids. And it was like, about the lights being off or the lights come back on again. And then it's like someone's there and they weren't there before. And
well, that's my movie Lights Out. Like Lights Out, the whole horror film is the lights go out and the girl Diana's there and the lights come on and she's gone. And then the lights go out and she's closer to you in the dark. And then the lights go on and she's off. It's the creepiest movie, by the way.
I didn't watch it.
I know. You can't watch it.
You guys, I hope everybody else watched it. I can't. That's
a lot of people watched it because I will still get people being like, "Oh my God, Lights Out!" But literally, I was like, "Diana, is that you?" I'm like, no, please no, Diana. I really don't want you to come out and haunt me. But then other things happened in the house, like the creepy doll thing is wild. People saw that on my stories where the lights go out and the little doll's like, ha ha ha. And moving, and then the lights go on and the lights go off, and it moves. And thank God I realized that it's all light activated. So initially I was like, it's a haunted doll. But then I realized that actually it's some asshole who has designed a doll to laugh activated and blow a kiss in the dark. Who comes up with that? Like, what designer is like, I know what I'll do for laughs. And then Bodhi told me that at the his sleepover that he had for his birthday this year, all the kids started screaming when that happened. And then,
oh my God,
this is when one of the little girls like came in and was like, hey, can I have my mom and dad come pick me up? And then Bodhi was like, it was after this happened.
Yeah. 100% would have been me. I watched the movie, Candyman. Is it Candyman where you look in the mirror or something and you say something Candyman like a few times or whatever.
Yeah.
And my friends and I would like hype each other up so much about like turning the lights off and like looking in the mirror and saying Candyman. And I would like, I was like, I'm brave. I can do it. You know, and I'd be like, Candyman. I'd be like, ah! And then I would just like get so scared for so long.
Oh
like,
my God.
Is it gonna happen to me?
We watched those movies way too young. Like, I remember watching them at a sleepover when I was like 12 or something. And then I don't know if you used to do this, the light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Of course.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a witch. Are you kidding? I was
after
always
I saw
like,
The Craft, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
So good.
I know.
No, I know. I freaking love, I mean, I would imagine being a part of something spooky like that. Like you did Discovery of Witches, like being a part of something where you're doing like magic and witchcraft and stuff would be so freaking cool. Because then you really get to like pretend or like, am I doing this?
My favorite thing shooting a Discovery of Witches was I got to learn how, so Diana has these knots that she does, right? And I got to learn shapes of each knot 1 through 10. And I got to really make it my own. And then the special effects would work around the movements that I like choreographed with the choreographer. And then on the day, you're like kind of dancing and pulling these invisible threads and pulling them into knots. And it was so cool to see the final thing, because I was like, they really like followed my lead, all the different little moves I do with my hand. And it looks so like pretty and graceful, and it's so fun. And then to channel that stuff after I've left Diana Bishop behind, like to actually get into that sort of thing, like with you and me and how we've been discovering that stuff. It's so exciting.
Well, you guys heard our episode with Angie last week, right? So it's so cool, like how she's even, as this like tarot card reader, and she sort of found her way into it, and she's been teaching herself everything. And then, now she has these other things that are coming up. And like, it's interesting because I will notice sometimes like things will come to me that I'll like think about something, nothing big at all. But then like something happens later where I'm like, weird. This feels like deja vu, but like, I feel like I had a thought about this. And I know you've had that happen too, Tez. It's like where you're like, you have a dream and you're like, God, it's just a whole lot like the dream I had. Or you have like a feeling about something that's going to happen and you're like, like maybe it's not a good idea for me to do whatever. And then it's like, anytime I have an off feeling about driving somewhere or like going to something and I'm like, I don't know, I just feel weird about it, then I just don't end up doing it. Cause I'm like, for some reason, my body's telling me no. And so I'm just going to like pull back from whatever that is. But then it's also
like hard. Do you remember that time when you were getting on that amazing private plane, but you had a feeling beforehand? You were like, I've got this feeling and I can't shake it. And we both were like, it's so hard to know whether to follow the feeling or not. Like, do you follow the feeling? And do you remember in that moment, you were like, I think it might not be about the flight. I think it might be about something else, but you decided to take the flight, and I was like waiting to hear from you when you landed, and you were like, cool, flight was great. Like, it was totally fine.
Totally. Like that, it is hard to figure out like what, but you know what? I think you do know, like you can really, like I got remember that time, I think I talked about it on here, where I was like driving to this restaurant. It was downtown. It was a sketchy area. It was like exactly what you were talking about, where it had, you were like around a bunch of people that, just felt off, and you were like, should I walk to the science center? And for me, I was like, okay, I was going to park here and then get out. But then I had this weird feeling that like something was going to hit my car. And then out of nowhere, like, something fell and hit my car. And I was lit. Did I not tell you this story on here? Maybe I did. I don't know.
So.
Yeah, I was like downtown LA. I was parking my car and I just had this very strange feeling. as I was sitting there, something was going to fall on me. And I was like, God, I keep feeling like I need to brace myself. But I was like texting Eric and I was like, hey, are you going to be able to meet me at this place? Because if not, I'm not going to like stay here and eat. I'm going to go somewhere else because it just feels a little sketchy right now. And then I saw this guy who was like, you know, he was definitely had some mental stuff going on and he had a lot of bags in his hand, like a lot of things that he was carrying. And like that felt something there that energetically felt weird to me. And then I kept just feeling like I needed to brace. And then all of a sudden I looked back down at my phone and then boom, something hits my car. And I was like, I felt like something was going to hit my car. And it did. I knew it. And I was like, you know what?
Amazing.
That's okay. I'm going to leave. I'm going to pull out. I'm going to go.
You're like, I'm good. I'm good.
Boom, I'm out.
And that's also, obviously, I bet you were getting a warning. Like, if you stay here, something worse could happen.
100%. Because I couldn't even see what hit my car. Like, I wanted to get out. It felt like, you know, like a bucket. Like if a bucket hit the hood of your car, that's how like loud it was. Like it was loud. But then I like looked and I'm like,
scary.
I know. And I was like, did someone hit it with something?
And you're like, did someone just like smash it with a fist or something like boom?
I don't know. It was so because I was looking at my phone and then I looked up and I was like, okay, I'm out. And I like texted Eric. I was like, I'm out of here. I don't know if you're on your way for work, but I'm not staying. So,
oh my God. Well, you know, I just had a really weird little feeling too, even though like I'm always just, you know what I am with safety stuff, right? I fly into Australia and I'm like, oh, because of the gun laws in Australia, right? So I will always land in Australia and just be like, oh, like this sense of just like relax, right? And that's my own stuff that I obviously have to work through because I spend so much time in America, of course. But there is just this sense when I land, I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but the other day, when I was road tripping in my rental car with my mum and my 4 children and my 2 dogs and my cat and my 7 suitcases.
Oh my God.
All Teresa. In the one car.
And were you having to pull over so your daughters could get out and do the splits?
Yeah. By the way, it's exactly what they did on the P stop at the park. I just see like Paul off being like, Mom, I learned to do the splits in this direction. I'm like, oh, like, fantastic. Like trying to keep the dogs at bay. And then the cat's like, every hour, by the way, on the road trip, I just hear, this poor cat in this little carrier. By the way, there's not even like 1 centimeter of space left in the car. I jam-packed that car to the extreme. It was all the kids had to cross their legs because there was just no room. The dogs were just basically on top of each other in this like tiny little area in the back. It was like so comedic, by the way. I was like, oh my God, this is the funny farm. Like we are the funny farm. It's wild. Anyway, so I did stop. And I was like, all right, I've got to pull the bags out of the back to get the dogs out to then get them to pee. And I did try to get the cat out because I got a cat leash and I did try to get the cat out with the cat leash and make it go pee in the bush. And of course, cats are so different to dogs. The cat was like, whoa, like just panicked, like sheer panic,
freaked out.
claws
like,
out,
I'm
scratching
outside.
the shit out of me, like, like wide eyes. I'm like, okay, this cat ain't going to do a shit. Like I need to put it back in the carrier. And it just like dove back into its carrier, like so panicked. I was like, okay, that was a bad idea. Anyway, so then I like take the dogs to go wee and poo, put them back in the car. Then all the kids need to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom and there's a guy on a motorbike who had just been staring at us. And I was like, yes, I know we're like the funny farm, you know, I'm getting out, there's cats, there's dogs, there's bags, there's things, you know, I'm like, yes, we're quite a spectacle. But he was staring at us like for a while. And I tried smiling at him when I walked past to go to the little public toilets and like dead eyes. I got no smile back. I got nothing back. And suddenly I was like, that doesn't feel like good, socially normal, because anyone you smile at, even if they're a grumpy person, they could give a short little curt smile back.
Totally.
And also he didn't even look away. He just kept staring dead eyes. And I was like, okay, that just feels a little bit off. So we go to the toilet and I make everyone come in the cubicle with me. Poor kids. But I was like, just in case, like everyone come into the cubicle. And we all go to the toilet, and then Bodhi went first, and he was like, oh, can I wait outside? And I was like, but I didn't want to alarm them and tell them like, no, there's sort of this creeper. And then Bodhi, without me finishing my sentence up, maybe he picked up on my hesitation, Bodhi was like, actually, Mum, there was a guy out there that made me feel really weird. Like he's got a really weird energy. And I was like, you know, I noticed the same person. And it's like, you did? And I'm like, yep, I'm your mother. And that is a part of my job to notice things like that.
Yeah.
And to keep you guys feeling safe. And so we all stayed in, and then I held hands with everyone, passed, and we walked back to the car, and it was in the middle of nowhere in between Melbourne and Adelaide. And got the same thing again, like sort of the dead eye look staring at us. And I was just like, no, it doesn't feel amazing. So we got back in the car and we drove off. But it's those like little spidey senses that you get. And he could have turned out to be perfectly normal. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he wasn't, you know, all there. Whatever it was. It's just those like little moments where you've got to follow that gut instinct. And to hear that my kid also had the same gut instinct, I was like, okay, that's double like confirmation for me. Like, we're going to get out of here. Like, we're not, because the kids wanted to play, you know, prayer and Pole, like, oh, let's go do the splits down the slide. No, but they wanted to play on the playground. And I was like, this is not the playground for us. This is not the one we're going to stop at.
No.
Yeah.
That's like the winter with her like weird energy, you know, her calling out people's like weird energy or bad energy or like all of that stuff, which is.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. And then I remember you telling me at the beach.
Didn't I? I think I told it on the podcast.
You told it on the podcast, yeah, but then you also pointed it. You pointed people out. But you're like, that's the person. I was like, oh.
And there they are.
Yeah. I was like, I feel that too from very far away. So there you go.
Yes, exactly. I know. It's funny. Like, I do get that a lot, though. A lot of spooky stories on here for spooky season.
No. A lot of and also, guys, I'm listening. I'll tell you this podcast that I'm listening to at the moment. It's so fascinating and heartbreaking, and I really want answers for this family. So it's called Missing Neum. And it's a part of like the Case File Presents. So it's about this woman who went missing, young woman. She was 18, went missing in Batlow in New South Wales in 2002 in Australia. And I'm listening to like the family tell the story, and it's so heartbreaking and so it's really well reported, and I just like really want answers for their family. But so for anyone, people often ask me about my podcast recommendations.
Your podcast?
That's one. My podcast recommender and my podcast, which, yes, it will be coming out at some point when I can find spare 5 minutes in my life.
Oh, my God.
My own podcast called They Run the Night that I'm doing with Susie Collins, which is all about this kind of thing.
So great.
We will get that out to you. She's actually coming next week to Melbourne.
Oh, perfect. Amazing.
We're going to try in between my work to like really flesh out more ideas for it. Yeah.
I love it.
Anyway, I love you, Daisy.
Well, I love you. I miss you. And I love you, Daisies. Send us your spooky stories. Maybe not too spooky, or send them to Tess.
Yeah, send them to us. Maybe we can read them out next solo.
Okay, great. Actually, that'll be a really good thing for us to do on Halloween. We can talk about more spooky stories. And then if you guys can just send us some of your stories that or anything that's been going on that's like kind of creepy, like send it our way. Not too creepy, but a little creepy.
Amazing.
I'm literally about to like exit the trailer and walk into the house.
Dark.
It's so dark. I know. I'm so scared. Okay. We love you, Daisy.
Love you.
Bye, guys.